And I'd like to tell you about two of our programs. Let Me Be Your Lungs, which you know, people raise money that goes directly towards Let Me Be Your Lungs. So we appreciate you all for that. And for our peer-to-peer program, if you want to talk to somebody who has the same PH you do or has PH altogether, we have people who are trained to actually be a mentor. I'm one of them, and there are some mentors on here. Um, and we pray that and hope that you will, if you need somebody to talk to, we are here for you. And our next meeting is going to be May 13th, and it's on coexisting conditions. And it will be led by Leah Barrows, who is a nurse practitioner of the University of Washington Medical Center. And as you know, we cannot diagnose or give medical advice. What we're going to do this meeting is a little bit different. We're going to silence everybody, put everybody on mute, because we really feel, and this is one of the most requested subjects that came up, and it was requested, and Miss Marie was requested to come back. It's on, you will say, you all read the thing, but it was all on about, it's about self-care, and we all need that, as you know, self-care is so important. We tend to skip self-care, so we really need it. So because of that, we're going to mute every single body, and all questions, please put all your questions in the chat. All questions will come through the chat, which Miss Deborah Webster, thank you very much, has agreed to read, and we're going to have the questions at the chat at the end of the presentation, and that's so that the presentation could come through in its entirety without any interruptions. And if you are on your phone, Marie has graciously said, hey, here's my email, which we'll get at the end of the presentation. And you could email her directly, which is like the coolest thing ever. With all that said, we ask that you don't try to unmute yourself, just stay muted. And Marie, I've known for a while. I first met her when she came to our church to talk to us about mental health. She also is a caregiver. I'm not going to give her bio because she knows more about her than I know about her. So I'm going to mute myself. So it got away. Oh, there it is. Okay. I'm going to mute myself, and Marie, just take it away.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. It's so nice to see some of you again and meet new people. I'm so beyond humbled and honored to be invited to come back to join all of you today. I got a new job, which will be part of my bio, so sorry about the setup and looking like a little head, but it's just technology. But they're going to help us actually with the slides. I'll just give a quick little background. So I actually was with the Mental Health Association Monmouth County for nearly 10 years, up until the new year. And I very excitedly got a job with Monmouth County, New Jersey, the Monmouth ACTS Resource Net, and I'm the behavioral health specialist. So been with the job just starting in January, but I've been part of this team and this lovely group of people for many, many years. And it's through the various partnerships in the community within the county and the state that I was able to, join over here, as well as meet Lenise and others to be a part of all of this with all of you. So what we're going to do today, some of you may have even seen parts of this presentation in the past, but when we had the virtual town hall, I think I did it in 3 minutes. So some of the information wasn't able to really be absorbed, although I know it was shared. So I did, revamp a little. And really, I know we talk about self-care, but we're really going to talk about today what a caregiver looks like, both if you have a caregiver or you are the caregiver or all of the above, what compassion fatigue and burnout looks like, how we can work through that. I'm going to be sharing resources that many of you may have already, but I feel it's always good to just have it again, right? And then, we'll take it from there and see what you want. I love conversation and dialogue. Presentations, I'm here to present, but I'm really here to be with all of you and to have a conversation. So thank you so much for inviting me here with all of you today. So here we are, caring for others begins caring for you. Support information and resources for the PH community. Change the slide, please. Okay, so Dr. Peggy Swarbrick came up with the 8 dimensions of wellness years ago. And it was basically to give an idea of what overall wellness, right? We're multi-layered. People are multi-layered. We don't have one thing. And obviously I'm preaching to the choir with, your lovely group. So, but I actually found one that included cultural. So I actually like the 9 dimensions of wellness because this is all the various aspects of who we are, right? So it's the physical, the emotional, environmental, financial, intellectual, spiritual, occupational, social, but the cultural matters as well. To understand truly why we react certain ways sometimes, the supports we need, how we communicate. Next slide, please. So let's start with caring for yourself, right? So it's very hard to, especially in today's world, find the time to really care for ourselves or even know what this is going to look like. I see somebody asking about a copy of the presentation. Sure, we'll share it. I see it in the chat. Caring for an individual loved one with a medical condition, right, can be emotionally demanding, overwhelming, and possibly isolating. Let's talk about that isolation, what it feels like when you have someone that you love that's going through something and you're not really sure what you can do. Now, what if the caregivers do? What if you're the individual with pulmonary hypertension or another condition that makes those challenges even greater for you to help care for somebody else while you're trying to care for yourself? Maintaining your well-being is not always easy, right? We know that, but it should always be a priority, and that's where I think a lot of us struggle. But we don't realize that it will help strengthen our ability to support others. When they talk about, taking the oxygen on the plane first or whatever it takes, your own oxygen, right? You need that. You need that to sustain, to live. You need that first. So whatever it is, physically, figuratively, it matters because you cannot do anything for another human being if you're not in a good place yourself. And one of the things I totally love is a good, healthy time out. And remembering that it's okay to not be okay. That's a big thing. It's okay to not be okay. I'm going to say it again. It's okay not to be okay. There are days we just can't do another thing. There are days that we just need to be within ourselves. I call it emotional or physical rebooting, right? Those days that you just got to go through what you're going through. I think the slides are going too fast. Oh, you brought me back. Thank you. And yes, you cannot pour from an empty cup. All right, we'll go to the next slide. Please. So various roles of caregivers. A lot of you know this already, but it's just sometimes good to remind ourselves what a caregiver looks like, because sometimes we don't realize some of the things we do actually count because we're so used to doing, right? So providing companionship is a form of caregiving. Friendship, emotional support, helping with the daily, errands and chores and just the day-to-day, even doing the dishes, you're showing somebody you care, preparing meals, helping with bathing if you're at that point that you have to assist somebody. And again, I can't even imagine what that must be like if you're going through your own physical challenges to then now have to help someone else to care them, especially in a physical or medical capacity. And then when you're dealing with financial needs, tasks, paying bills, today, boy, do we know what that's feeling like, right? Especially with the gas and everything else going up, the electricity, all this stuff weighs on us. This all contributes to the mental health issues that a lot of people that maybe didn't previously have. And if you are trying to manage a health condition on top of that, people truly don't understand the walk that you're walking unless you have something like this where you can really share those experiences. Advocating for an individual's care. How many times are we in a situation where it's a child or a parent or a loved one or a friend where maybe they can't at that time advocate for themselves, so now we step up to the plate. Maybe you're somebody's guardian or power of attorney. What does that look like and what is that pressure? And then encouraging, right? I love encouragement. Accompanying individuals as social outings to help them with engagement, to help them just feel like themselves and to feel better. Next slide, please. So now we get to, right, what does burnout or compassion fatigue look like? And they're really two different things, but very often go hand in hand. Emotional exhaustion. Actually, a lot of these things look the same. Emotional exhaustion or detachment, irritability, frustration, cynicism. when you don't have the motivation or you're not getting satisfied by things that you normally felt good about or enjoyed, right? Certain hobbies or just even gatherings. How many times we blame difficulty on concentrating on other things, whether it be our health or it could be not enough sleep, it could be, getting older, menopause, I don't know. But we put a lot of things on a lot of, why. But honestly, when we're overloaded, that's one of the first signs that's, that we need a break. Feeling overwhelmed. The big difference between burnout and compassion fatigue is with compassion fatigue, you find it very hard to be compassionate. It gets to a point that sometimes you're just so depleted that you feel badly about it, right? So there's a weird guilt that comes along with that too. Again, another thing that contributes to mental health and anxiety and just like, why am I feeling this way? Why am I not caring? But that's part of just being so overloaded, right? Sometimes things are just too much, which goes back to what I was saying before about it's okay not to be okay sometimes. We're human. We need that time to feel it so we can get through it, right? When we can. Pay attention to physical symptoms. When you're dealing with a health condition, right away, lots of times we go straight to, oh, it must be that. And it very much could be. But a lot of things, right, are co-occurring. So when we're very stressed out, we're burnt out, maybe we have compassion fatigue, anxiety. A lot of the symptoms could carry over into looking like headaches, fatigue, digestive issues, sleep. Sleep changes, big thing. And most of us do not get enough sleep. I would have to say professionally that if you do notice any of these signs, definitely reach out for support. Caring for yourself is an integral part of caring for others, but you really, I'm going to say it a million times, have to care for yourselves first. And really pay attention. If you think obviously it's a physical thing, a medical thing, take care of that immediately. Again, you all know this, but it could also be a mental health component to that. So it's okay to reach out for help and to see if that's something that maybe needs to be looked at and addressed because we are multifaceted. Next slide, please. I'm sorry, next slide, please. Thank you. So this is where the self-care comes in, right? So self-care matters. It helps promote better health in the, to the level that it can be. Emotional balance, resilience, one of my favorite words other than integrity in the English language. Being able to keep on pushing through and doing what you need to through the day. It can help prevent and manage burnout and compassion fatigue because when you're taking care of yourself, you're giving yourself that time, that break. It also helps to foster that empathy, especially if you have compassion fatigue and you start feeling like you're kind of losing that part of it. It allows for a better understanding of what someone else is experiencing too. If we don't take the time to even think about how we're perceiving a situation or how it's making us feel, it's always important, I feel, to know the story. Not just the story of others, but the story of ourselves. Oh, I just got chills. That was a huge point. But knowing the story of ourselves. We forget about ourselves so often, and this is why I love being here with all of you and really helping to, put this information out and remind you all. It does support clear thinking, right? Like I said, it isn't always menopause. Effective decision-making, communication, and you're modeling healthy coping skills. When you're working on yourself, you're not just talking the talk, you're walking the walk, right? You're not saying, oh, you need to, not telling everybody go see a therapist, but you need therapy or you need to go out or you need to do something for yourself. When you do it yourself, people seem to relate better to that because there's an authenticity that comes along with that. It's not selfish, it's self-preserving, and it's necessary for your own sustainability, balance, and resilience. And how you practice those self-care strategies, right? Set boundaries. Boundaries are healthy. No can be a very healthy word in a lot of ways. I'm sure a lot of us aren't necessarily saying no as often as we should. And as long as it comes from a place of love and it's expressed in a way like I just need a little time right now, it's okay. And taking those regular breaks. We are not machines. We can't keep going and going and going. And again, when you're dealing with a health condition, especially a debilitating one, you have to recharge. It's okay to care deeply without absorbing someone else's feelings. We are not required on this earth to take on everybody else's stuff, nor should we be expecting other people to do that. That's an extremely important thing to share. You know, there's no human requirement to do that. Truly caring, having integrity, being present, engaging, whether just with ourselves or other people. That to me is where the health comes in. That's where what we as people should be doing. Not in a preachy way, in a self-preserving, caring way. I don't want to come across like I'm telling you how to live. Debrief with someone you trust. You know, we are the company that we keep, especially in a stressful situation. I've shared this before, and I've shared it with those of you that have met me before, but you know, I went through certain struggles. Part of my bio, right, is what led me to all this work is I lost my home in Sandy. I have a brother who has spinal cerebellar ataxia. You know, his brain is shrinking. It's not the same as PH, but it's, you know, a congenital degenerative condition that has now advanced. You know, had certain issues in my life too that, you know, just there was a time in my life I was the phone call that nobody wanted to answer. I am convinced because I was just in a space that wasn't good. But because I had a wonderful support system and I'm not throwing my faith on other people, I am a faithful, hopeful person. That helps me get through some of the worst times of my life. That has allowed me actually to do what I do today because I am coming from a place of a certain level of understanding and experience. Engage in activities that bring you joy. You know, and what's her name? Joy Kondo. Does this spark joy? It's important. Things should bring you joy and relaxation. And sometimes we're not in that joyful place, but we could try to relax, right? Taking that time. If exercise is something we can do, we do it. There's chair yoga, beautiful concept. And believe me, you get a workout. Hobbies, mindfulness, spiritual practices. I myself sometimes shut everything off and just open the windows and just listen to birds. Listening to birds and just listening to the wind blow and just centering and grounding myself to me is a way how I personally restore balance sometimes because the world has gotten way too noisy. Monitor your stress and energy levels. Look for those signs of burnout and compassion fatigue. And as I said before about grounding techniques, I know it says deep breathing, and I do not mean that insensitively. Obviously, if somebody, you know, they can breathe, try to take a deep breath. And if you can't, do what you can do. And if it's the little walks, if it's the mindfulness, if it's a cup of tea or coffee, whatever that is, you know, your special lemony water, whatever is the thing that gives you that time to just bring you back to yourself. And that gives you time to rest and recharge. Next slide. And then I just shared some resources I found. You guys will be getting these slides, so we can run through this. But I was excited to see different caregiving resources. I know through this beautiful organization team, phenomenal, how the ability to get information and to share is wonderful. But again, I think sometimes we forget the caregiver side, whether it's for our loved one who's helping us or we ourselves are the caregiver. Next slide, please. Just another resource that will be beneficial for all of you. What I particularly liked about this one is that it really offered information on if you're newly diagnosed, which I thought was an important just resource to have both for the person who's been diagnosed and those that, you know, care about them, your loved ones, your family. Next slide, please. This I thought was so cool the first time I found it. The fact that you can internationally look for resources. At the end, you'll see my contact information because I'm in New Jersey. I'm glad that Lenise shared before that that doesn't mean I'm only going to answer you if you live in New Jersey, because that's not how we roll. It's really about helping people get the information they need, the resources they need, the support they need. So I don't care where you live. If you want to reach out to me, I will never say, sorry, I live in New Jersey. I'll do the best I can to help point you in a direction. And when I saw this resource, I thought it was fantastic because I thought internationally to have a central point of where you could reach out for different resources and supports, I thought that was amazing. And I hope it's as good as it is. Next slide. Okay, recognizing depression when living with pulmonary hypertension. I loved that I found this. I thought it was great because the fact that they are providing information for people particularly dealing with, you know, depression while managing and processing what you're experiencing right now, or the loved one that's experiencing it. Depression could come on quick, or it could sneak up slowly. And sometimes we don't always recognize it, or don't allow us to feel that way, or stay in that place too long. And that's why it's very, very important to sometimes, no, always actually, when we can, to try to self-assess. There's assessment tools out there through various mental health agencies where you can do a self-assessment or mental health toolkit, which are great. But just if you're really thinking that maybe you feel a little too low, it's okay to reach out for help or ask questions. Next slide. So on the website, they had national various support resources where people could reach out to look for any kind of mental health assistance they may need. The Mental Health Association, actually Mental Health America, is national. Throughout the entire country, you could go onto NHN National and plug in where you live, and they can help you find the Mental Health Association that's affiliated with your area. And in the state of New Jersey, you know, there's 21 counties. There's not one MHA, there's numerous throughout the counties, and that's the same for a lot of the different states. So there's ways, and even Psychology Today. If you're feeling like you need a support group that centers around how you're feeling more on the mental health component, or, you know, working through issues with a loved one, a family member, NAMI is another organization where you could put in the information and the location, and it'll help populate what's in your area to help. And through Psychology Today specifically, let's say you're looking for a therapist and you're on Medicare, they can actually, you plug that all in and it'll help populate the different providers in your area that could possibly assist. Next slide, please. And of course, it's always important, right, to recognize that, you know, there are times people do consider SI, and it's very important to have a way to reach out. If you or anyone you love is ever feeling a certain way, reach out, reach out. And never, ever, ever somebody has reached out to you and said, I need support, disconnect with them. Help them make the connection. It is very important. I have worked with families where just keeping that connection has prevented the possibility of a very bad situation. Next slide. And this is where I work now. So this is Monmouth ACTS Resource Connect. It is it's a war line, basically. So that phone number, you could call, you could reach out. If you're looking for me specifically, just let them know, but you'll have my email in a second anyway. But again, it is for Monmouth County, New Jersey. That does not mean that we will not assist. I've gotten calls from still, Lenise is going to laugh. At my old job, I was getting calls from all different states. I even got somebody from Nova Scotia. That's my, you know, that's my record, the furthest away. But we do get families that reach and that have a loved one in this area and want to know what resources, or they've tapped into their communities and maybe we're having trouble navigating information. I am always willing to try to assist in the best way that I can. And I think my next slide is my email and my thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be here with all of you today. I hope the information so far has been beneficial. That's how you can reach me, and you will also be receiving the slides anyway. And of course, you could always reach out to Tanya, Lenise, anyone, and you know, I'm totally fine with them sharing my information. And thank you so much.
Okay, I'm going to unmute you, but the rest of you still stay muted, except for Marie. As was said earlier, in case you're just chiming in, we're going to we ask for all questions to be put in the chat. And if you have questions and you can put them in the chat, Deborah will read them. And if you are on the phone, Um, you can email or call Marie directly, but always keeping in mind that she cannot diagnose your specific issue and she cannot give medical advice, but she sure can help you find help if she cannot provide it herself. So before we do that, and please put your questions in the chat. Before we do that, I have a couple of questions because number one, mine aren't in the chat because I have a visual disability, so I don't see the chat. So one of my questions, Marie, is uh, why do you think people don't reach out when they need help dealing with specific disease or mental health issues? Why do you think they don't reach out?
I think that's a layered issue, but the first thing that came to mind, of course, was stigma. There's still a stigma in a lot of communities, or just individually, even some cultures, for asking for help, right? Particularly mental health assistance. Um, I also think sometimes we don't recognize that we need help yet. You know what I mean? We're struggling along, we're trying to plug along, right? Maybe we haven't come to terms what's really going on. Maybe we're not fully understanding it. Sometimes I think I call it ostrich syndrome. Sometimes people just want it to go away, so they don't address it. So I think if people could feel comfortable, even if they just have that one person that they feel just unconditionally will, accept whatever it is that they are asking or need advice for. You know what I'm saying? But I think I think those are a lot of the issues.
Okay, and you made a statement. Caring for yourself isn't selfish; it's self-preservation. Why do you say that?
Because I don't think it is selfish to take care of yourself unless you're somebody who never cares about anybody else. We have to take care of ourselves. I know I've said it numerous times. If we can't do anything for any human being, for our pets, for anyone, if we're not in a good space, in a good place. So we can't preserve ourselves, our own mental health, our own physical health, emotional, spiritual, whatever it is out of those nine, layers of wellness that we need financially, right? What they say, charity begins at home. Charity is not just monetary. Charity is caring for yourself. So that's why I think it's very important. So, and I think also, how we just before we spoke about stigma. There's a stigma with, being seen as selfish. But if we frame that and we look at it as being self-preserving, it's not that we're not caring for others.
That makes complete sense to me. And also, I'd like to also bring up the fact that we do have a peer-to-peer program. So if you feel also too like you have to talk to someone or you want to talk to someone who has pulmonary hypertension like you do, check it out on our website, teamphenomenalhope.org. And right now I'm going to mute myself because I'm going to Miss Deborah. What's in the chat?
Hello. So we had a couple of people asking for the presentation, and Tanya replied that a copy of the presentation will be emailed to everybody on this call.
And what other questions do we have, Deborah? And we'll try to save them all.
So we have more of a comment from, she said she's new to this group, happy to be included. I am a northern Wisconsin, 3 hours away from my healthcare team, and nothing in my area for treatment or rehab. Looking for rehab maybe online and would love to be connected with a mentor. Very alone and not handling this very well, feeling down and kind of hopeless at times. No SI, but feel so exhausted and flat. Would be grateful for any guidance. She's just looking for some help and some support from us. I really think she's looking for a mentor. And Tanya did post the link to the Phenomenal Connection peer-to-peer program, and that could hook her up with a mentor. And that goes for anybody on this call. If you're looking for a mentor or somebody else with PH to help support you, Team Phenomenal Hope can do that with the peer-to-peer program. And if you look in the chat, the link is, and I'm sure that we could send that out as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you know what, I also, can I just throw one thing that I do know about hospice care? I've actually heard of people come out of hospice care where there have been people who thought, yes. So I think that's an important point to do in there, that I do know. That, you know, people have been put in hospice and thinking this is it, and then by the grace of God get better, and they're like, oh, okay, don't need hospice care anymore.
There was another thing that came up. Marie, when we, during all that we go through, is it helpful maybe to have a hobby or to maybe something to take your mind off of this while we're going through it? Does it seem like that's too much of an overload? Or
I don't think it's an overload. I think anything that speaks to your soul, you know, is comfort, right? So, and it doesn't have to be crocheting or, you know, woodworking. It doesn't have to be that involved. It could be journaling. It could be, you might like movies, and, you know, you're really into, you know, if the Oscars coming, you know, you have a goal to watch all of the Oscar nominated films. It could be listening to music, you know, so I don't think it has to be anything so structured. I think it has to be something that brings you comfort and helps you feel like yourself. And sometimes a lot of people aren't even sure what that is. So the cool thing is to try different things that interest you. Coloring, you know, when people color, like, just, you know, people think coloring is, look at scrapbooking. I just saw that. Great. It's like one of the best hobbies. Yeah, scrapbooking is amazing. I like to write. I love music. Those are, like, if I had hobbies, those are mine. You know, just taking that time to, sometimes I write poetry just to get how I'm feeling out. It also reminds me that I can be connected in another way and take myself away from the day to day.
well, I think too that we all have PH, or we're caregivers for PH, some form. Sometimes we get comorbidities, and that can bring you down. You know, you're already fighting the PH now. There's something else.
Yeah.
Mentally, you had said, caring for you, that we all have to remember that we already have a story. So
yes,
thinking on that and thinking on when we have something else added to the already heavy load we have, how do you deal with that?
So again, the first thing that came to mind for me as you were sharing this is there's not one thing that identifies us. But before I said we were multi-layered, right? So our condition, disease, illness is not all of who we are, right? Being married, being a parent, being a caregiver, our job, all of it. It's not all one. We're not one thing. And the beauty of scrapbooking, particularly, or if you are someone who writes, you can look back and remember certain things that maybe you had forgotten, that remind you that that's all part of the story, that where you are today isn't necessarily where you're going to be tomorrow, and you aren't always there. And I think sometimes when we look back and say, okay, well, there was a time I could do this. All right, well, now I can't, and that's yucky or horrible. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But what can I do next? And I think when we give ourselves that break to just be like, okay, this does not define me. I'm not pulmonary hypertension. It's something that, is affecting my body. It's not fair. Let's just call it what it is. It isn't. It isn't fair. Any type of, life-threatening degenerative illness, it's not fair. Cancer's not fair. Losing someone's not fair. There's a grief that comes with all of this, right? I'm preaching to the choir. But staying in that place when we're ready, right? Because we do have to give ourselves a break. I want to keep reminding, all of us of that. There's days, they're just not a good day. And whether it's physically, mentally, the news, whatever it is, but not letting it define you and keeping you there, I think is what's important. So whatever's the thing that can help pick you up and remind you of the other parts of you, I think that's important.
And we're again asking that all questions be put in the chat if possible, because that would really help us a lot. And again, sometimes we just need somebody to talk. That's not going to say, oh, you think that's something, oh, I got such and such and such and such and such. I'm not a selfish person, but quite frankly, at that time, I don't care. It's all about me. But yeah, I mean, it can be something. And Deborah, is there anything else in the chat?
Had posted that she has several practices that she does weekly to allow her to have purpose and enjoy my life, even with chronic illnesses. Commented that I'm very fortunate to be living in a senior retirement community where I play many different card games and also attend and lead a book club and go to morning exercises 3 days a week. It helps me maintain a good life while living with PAH.
That's all wonderful. That's beautiful.
That's great. And a new haircut. Girl, you got it going on.
Yeah, she looks great. You do. You look great. Nothing like a new haircut.
I was going to say that it's just so important with this disease or any chronic disease to have a support group or to have people that you are socially connected to, even for us introverts. I'm very introverted, but I find ways to connect to other people because I think that's really important, like it does with, playing card games and getting out there and going and doing your exercise or your book club. She attended PH at the Hill Day. One of the participants said his daughter made a quirky post to convey the message that she is not her disease. I think this is a great perspective because it's easy to see that it is overwhelming. Acknowledge, acceptance, adapt. Those were my key ways to move forward and get educated.
Absolutely. We do have to. And I love that. I'm going to make my own poster. I am not my disease. I might even get a t-shirt for that one. Okay, we have a few men on. We have a few men on. And my question to Marie is this. And I'm going by what my own husband did. So any questions, again, put your questions in the chat. Thank you. All questions can go into the chat if you can do it. If not, let us know. But also too, I know at least with when my own husband was alive, he did not really, I think women are more prone. I hope I'm not stepping on toes. If I am, please just kick me off your toes. Women are more prone to share things and to reach out for help than men. What do you advise for that, Marie?
So this has come up in the past, and yes, traditionally, and I don't want anyone emailing me and yelling at me either. It's okay. But I think lots of times, right? So let's go to culture. Let's go to the wellness of culture, right? So men, culturally speaking, especially in a lot of cultures, they're the strong one. They're the caregiver, right? They're seen as the protector. So if now they have a debilitating disease or they're struggling with a mental health issue, or maybe they're not sure, they're feeling a little something and they're not understanding. Yeah, very often they don't want to be seen as less than or weak, but they're not. And I think by having groups like this or having communication, a good old TED Talk, whatever it is that helps inspire people. It's wonderful when you see a lot of celebrities and professionals, especially in the sports arenas, and not, just say, oh, I'm just into sports. I'm just saying when you have someone who's in the public eye who shares an experience that they've had, or what their personal challenges are and what they've done. I think that's inspiring as well. I think the more that we keep the dialogue open and help men feel welcome, it's not just the girls club to sit around and chat and, talk about our feelings, and I have found that the more welcoming people are, and also I noticed that men don't like to make it as big of a deal, right? They just want to be able to share or maybe just listen. But when given the opportunity to just be and not feel exposed, right? Less than embarrassed, I think that's where it helps. So I think the more that we welcome the men into the conversation, I think they'll be more apt to. And then what happens then? Then you can tell, their friend and say, it was really cool. I felt good. I got out of there feeling good. And I was able to share how I was feeling. And now I feel a little lighter. I think the more that men feel that it's okay to express how they're feeling, it doesn't make them less than. In fact, lots of ways it makes us stronger.
I so agree. I mean, I miss my husband's input a lot because it was so valuable. Okay. Wow. If we have everybody, Marie, what closing words do you have for us?
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to be part of this group and your community, and you're always so welcoming. And I feel the support back and the kindness. And I really hope that something I said today, or in a way I was able to bring a little joy or support or hope or help. And really, I welcome the emails. I welcome whatever, if I could help in any way I can. And I hope I can spend some time with you all again soon.
You know what? I got to tell you the honest goodness truth. When you email Marie, she will get back in contact with you. I can tell you that for a fact. I mean, for real, I know this. And I think that as we all navigate through our different diseases, please remember you have to take care of yourself. It's like that thing on the plane. When the thing drops down, put it on yourself first, and you could help someone else. We have to also take care of ourselves. And I love that. Caring for yourself isn't selfish, it's self-preservation. So
Correct.
We have a lots of thank yous to Marie. Tanya posted, please share your coping strategies here. Thank you. Great presentation and Q&A.
thank you all. Kira will be back in May with you. I'm a student in school. I'm trying to get through my last semester. What made me think I needed a 4-year course at the age of 68 just amazes me. I'll be 72 and almost done. So Kira will be back. And thank you all so much. Check out our programs. Check out Peer to Peer. We have men and women who you can look at a picture in the bio, decide which one you want to talk to. And we really do need to talk to somebody who's going to understand what's going on for us. I thank you again, Marie, for just being here as always. It's such a pleasure to see you. And
Yes, thank you.
everybody,
Thank you, guys.
take care.
Yes. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for
Yes.
joining us.